this is Terry Lively. Welcome back to the House of Art. This is the third in my series of videos on machines that we can use for permanent makeup. I've already covered a couple of the new rotaries that are out, and so today I thought let's just travel back in time and learn about our coil machines. Now, our traditional tattoo machines are also called a coil machine. Sometimes I have people ask me, hey, what kind of gun do you use? And it's just something that kind of really gets under my skin. So we have to remember that we're professionals. We don't want to call our machines guns. So when I get that question, I tell them, well, I like a Smith & Wesson 38 5-shot. That's what I carry. And then they get a funny look. So, you know, when you refer to your machine, your tattoo machine, as a gun, it really is kind of disrespectful to the artist. So please don't do that. Okay, I'm going to jump off my soapbox now. Anyway, let's get back to our coil machines. This is a coil machine. If you were to take off these really pretty gold wraps, you would see two cylinders with a bunch of wire wrapped around them. And this machine works on a principle of electromagnetism. And this was actually invented, believe it or not, in the late 1800s. Thomas Edison had invented an electric pen, and a gentleman by the name of Samuel O'Reilly came along about 10, 12 years later, took that invention of Thomas Edison's, rewired it and reworked it so that it would have needles and also a little pigment well, and then he started tattooing with it. So you're looking around right before the turn of the century. We actually had tattoo artists using electric machines. Now, things changed about 30 years later. A gentleman by the name of Percy Waters came along, and he added coils to a frame. He took that same invention by O'Reilly, changed it up, added coils, and made it much more efficient for tattooing. So Percy Waters was the one who's responsible for the machine as we see it today. Machines come in all different shapes, sizes, colors, weights. They come built for lining, for shading, for packing color. They come for doing traditional tattooing. They come for doing cosmetic tattooing. So the one thing I like about a coil machine, it's just so customizable, so to speak. You can take a machine, call a machine builder, say, hey, I want a machine that will do this, do that, I work kind of fast, or maybe you work slow and you want a machine tuned to work slow. In other words, it keeps up with your style of tattooing, your hand speed, and so forth. So a really good machine builder can do that for you, which is pretty cool. If you're just buying a machine off a computer from an internet supplier, you would normally order a liner or a shader, okay? So I recommend that if you're going to buy a coil machine, that you get a coil machine built by someone who is experienced in cosmetic tattooing, because they're going to do something that's going to kind of be somewhere in between, so that you can line lips, you can fill lips, and so forth. So that's my advice to you. Now, I know you're probably wondering, who would that be? Are there builders out there that do that? Yes, there are. One of my favorite builders is John Hashey. John Hashey has been doing traditional tattooing, I think probably for 40 years now. He's been doing cosmetic tattooing for 25, 30 years now, and he's well regarded in our industry as an instructor who takes his people in, apprentices them, really works with them, and he is very old school, very traditional, and pretty much just works with coils. Now, he builds machines that are lightweight. You can see this machine. This is a brass machine. This is a super heavy machine designed for regular body art. John's machines, on the other hand, because we've bugged him over the years so much, he's come out with some really lightweight machines. This is called his Super Mini Coil. And compared to this thing, it's like night and day. I talked to him last week. He's coming out with another coil machine that's even lighter weight. So he's heard us plea through the years, give me a good machine that's lightweight and yet will do a great job, and he's gone into his shop and built that machine for us, so it's pretty cool. If you want to talk to John, talk about his machines, go on to his website, www.hashey.com. That's HASHEY.com, and tell him that you're interested in one of his coil machines. I don't get paid for this. I'm not endorsing him. He's a good friend of mine. I mentored under him. I learned to tattoo with him. So he's just a great guy. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about various coil machines with how they work and so forth. This is a aluminum frame machine, and I've put my needle in it and my handpiece, also called the tube. And the way this works, when it's plugged in and running, you've got these coils magnetizing and demagnetizing, which pushes this piece, called an armature bar, up and down really fast to the tune of, I believe they said 2,800 times on average per minute. So it's pushing your needles in and out of the skin really fast. Let me adjust this a little bit, and you can see the needle hanging out the end. There we go. So now you can see that needle popping out. And so that's what the armature bar does. So this is the armature bar. This is what we call the front spring. This is the rear spring. This is the frame that holds everything together, the body, so to speak. You've got a capacitor down here that you can't see. He's got this one hidden. So there are a lot of parts to a coil machine. Now, I'm not saying you have to know all the parts, and you don't need to you don't need to be able to take it apart and put it together other than putting your needle in and your tube and adjusting it. But there are a lot of parts to it. So what I want to do, I want to take the camera, I'm going to stop for a minute, move my camera, and I'm going to show you some close-ups of things to look for if you're working with a coil and you start having problems with it. Okay? I'll see you in a minute. Here I am with my camera close-up. Hopefully you'll be able to see everything real clearly now. This coil machine is put together. This piece right here is called a clip cord. This is what connects to your power supply. And this is a digital power supply. Critical is the name of the brand. Very good power supplies. They will run either your coil machines or your rotary machines. And a clip cord plugs into these two holes on the frame. That's how it makes its electrical connection. Okay? Plug it in. You have a foot pedal that you push down to stop it and start it. The rubber bands here, I know that drives everybody crazy, but the rubber bands actually take this needle bar and apply tension to it so that when these needles are going in and out of that tube, they're going nice and smooth. They're not wobbling like this. So you need two number 12 rubber bands. I like to space mine out like that a little bit. And when you run it, you want to check your tips and make sure that needle is nice, like I said, going smooth in and out. The depth, needle depth is adjusted by turning this piece. And that allows you to move the handpiece in or out to adjust needle depth. I don't know if you can see that, but see how I'm moving it? So, when I'm lining, for instance, if I'm doing an eyeliner, I work off the needle tip, which means my needles are hanging out pretty far, about like that. It's not that I'm pushing that all the way into the skin. Make sure you understand that. When you work off the tip of the needle, your hand is controlling the depth. But you can have that needle hanging out so that you have a real clear view of where your needle is, and your work can be very accurate. That's your needle depth, okay? Once you get your needle set where you want it, you're going to tighten that down so it doesn't move, and you can hold on to your tube, your handpiece here, and work with it like that, okay? Now, some things to look for in a machine if it's running kind of rough. What you want to look for, first of all, let me back up just a minute. Let's talk about how we set our power supplies. How do we know how much pressure or how much how high we want our power supply set when we're doing different procedures. So what I tell everybody is, the old tattooist trick, you're going to turn it and you're going to feel how hard your needles are hitting the skin by tapping your thumb right there. If you want them hitting real soft, then you're going to turn your power supply down. Let's say you're doing someone's eyeliner and they have very thin skin. You wouldn't want your needles hitting super hard, or you could cause a lot of bruising and scarring to the skin. So, touching that armature bar when the machine is running tells you how hard the needles are hitting. Let's say I've got somebody with some scar tissue. I'm having a hard time getting color in the skin. I know I have a good stretch. I know my power is maybe not hitting enough. So, I can turn up my power so that these needles hit harder. Okay? It's not that the machine is running faster. A lot of people confuse that. They think, oh, it's running a lot faster. Well, it may be slightly faster, but what it's really doing is adding more power behind the needles. More power to push the needles into that tough skin. Okay? So that's what your power supply does. It makes your machine hit softer or harder. It adds power or takes power away. Okay? So make sure you understand that. Okay. There's a little point here. This is called a contact point. Remember I told you these machines are very adjustable. Hear that? That's what actually makes your machine run faster or slower, is by adjusting the contact point. Now they say generally for lining, you want the gap of the contact point to be about a thickness of a dime. I don't find that to be true. What I look for is something we call shadow of the ghost. You look at this spring, and it's hard to do on camera, but you adjust this contact point to where you have 3 images as it's running. There we go, right about there. I can see 3 images of the spring. So, I took a class several years ago from a gentleman by the name of Dave Long, and he explained about machines, shadow of the ghost, what to look for to have your machine running smoothly. So, that's one of the things you want to look for. Again, I'm not trying to teach you how to use a coil machine with this video. I just want you to see the adjustability of it all. If you really have never used one and you want to learn how to use one, you need to take a class with someone. You need to spend some time with someone who can show you all these details and explain them to you, and also help you if something goes wrong with the machine, explain you how to, things to look for. But I'm going to do that anyway right now. I'm going to show you some things that can go wrong. Now, remember we talked about electromagnetism? The thing about electrical current, if something is affecting the flow of the electrical current, you're going to have a rough running machine. It's not going to run smoothly. It's going to run choppy. So it could be carbon buildup on your clip cord. Anywhere you have electricity running through, there's going to be carbon buildup. So let me show you what to look for. This is a relatively new clip cord, so there's probably no carbon buildup. There's a little bit. See that black? I don't know if you can see it. That's dirt. Okay? So if you wipe these points down every once in a while and get rid of that sooty black stuff, that'll help your machine run smoother. Okay? Another place to look for carbon buildup is between the armature bar and that front coil. So I'm going to take another piece of paper. I'm going to get a clean piece of paper, and we're going to try to find a machine that has quite a bit of buildup. Let's try this one. So I'm going to put this in here, and I'm going to push the armature bar down and just bring it out. There's a little bit there, not too much. I keep my machines pretty clean. But just squeeze it and wipe it out, and that'll get rid of that black. Let's check my Elvis machine. Say hi to Elvis. Okay. This is an old machine I used to use for when I was tattooing. I call him Elvis because he can really rock and roll. There we go. See all that dirt? That's your carbon buildup, and that can make your machine run really bad. Okay, see that? So that's another place you want to check. If you notice a spark coming from your contact points on your machine, this is the contact point on the front spring. If you notice that sparking, you may need to get a little file and gently file it smoother because it's not making a good connection. If it's really bad, then it could be a bad capacitor, in which case you would want to send this into your machine builder and have them work on your machine. Okay? Now, let me just point out something really quick. To educate you a little bit more, you're going to look at armature bars and springs. See this spring? See how it's a lot shorter than the spring on this machine? See this front point? See how much it extends out beyond the armature bar, whereas this one is not as far out? This is classified more as a liner with a short spring because the machine runs fast. Because when you're lining, if you're lining, you want your hand to be able to run fast, so you need a little bit faster running machine. When you're color packing, you want a longer spring, which will make your machine run slower and really pack color in. Now, I know there's going to be guys out there watching this and say, oh, she's just really not explaining it well. I'm just trying to hit on the major or the minor stuff. I'm not going into an in-depth class on how machines work, okay? I'm just hitting on a few things here so that those who do cosmetic tattooing understand a little bit more about their equipment, okay? So, there's a really good picture of a capacitor right there. I kept talking about the capacitor. These capacitors come in different ratings, I guess you would say. And depending on the machine, they pick a certain type of capacitor for shading or lining or whatever. And again, you're talking about creating a smooth electrical current. And all these little nuances make a difference in a machine and how it works and how it's set up. Pretty cool, huh? I think it's cool. I'm very geeky. I like things that are interesting and technical, and I like to understand how things work. So, anyway, what I'm thinking about, I want to show you, this is a stainless tube. If you're using stainless tubes at some point, you have to wash these between each client and autoclave them so that they're sterile between clients. Most people nowadays have gone to disposable tubes. They come pre-sterilized and they're thrown away after each client. So that's pretty nice. Same thing with needles. So that's my little class on coil machines. Again, if you'd like to learn how to use one, find someone who understands coil machines, who can train you, teach you how to use them on skin, how not to hurt someone. They're pretty powerful. They're like night and day when it comes to the rotary digital machines that are being sold in the permanent makeup industry. Coil machines are going to run you anywhere from about $200 each, all the way up to maybe $800, depending on, the builder, how custom it is, and so forth. Another thing to remember is if you're going to invest in coil machines to do permanent makeup or any type of tattooing, you have to have two machines. You have to have two machines set up because it takes a little bit longer to change out your needles and your tubes. So let's say you're lining a lip with a certain needle grouping and then you want to fill with a different one. You don't want to have to sit there in front of your client and change everything out. you want to have two machines set up. You want to have one with your liner and one with your fill. And you have them set up and ready to go. Also, all of this is covered with barrier film to prevent cross-contamination. You've got to do that also. Okay?